Hello there, and thanks for watching or listening to VIP Boxing's Bell to Bell podcast, episode 128. We know you either watch us on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. Thanks very much. And if you could subscribe to VIP YouTube, that would be fantastic. You'll see all the action live from all our fights. And you will even see plenty on there. But tonight's special guest, who I'm about to introduce you in a second or two. You know me, Steve Lillis, and as always, I'm with John Evans. John, we all good there?
Yeah, everything's good, Steve.
Well, tonight's special guest, some of you may well recognise, he's an unbeaten flyweight, going very well indeed. Had a fantastic win at the weekend over Steve Jackson, 4-0. Samir Aftab, the flyweight king of Bolton at the moment. How are you, Samir?
Not too bad, Steve. What an introduction. Yeah. Thank you for having me on, and thank you, John. Thank you both of you for having me on this week.
Yeah, brilliant to see you. And as I say, we were talking before we come on, and Steve Wood was telling me how he's going to give you a big push now. You're not just a good fighter. You sell 80 ringside tickets. He must love you, would he?
Yeah, I always joke around with Steve. I always tell him, I'm your favourite, aren't I? I'm your favourite. And you know what? He's looking after me like I'm his favourite as well. He's kept me really, really busy, and I can't thank him enough.
And just tell us a bit about, we're going to talk about the flyweight division, one of your topics later on, but tell us about your own career. You had a great win against, well, won't call it a great win, but perhaps would it be your best performance against Steve Jackson on Saturday night? Because he came to fight and you both had a fight, particularly in that third round.
Yeah, I believe definitely it was definitely my best performance by far, and I'm glad Steve Jackson come for it, and it created the openings. It enabled me to look really good. I found my counters and my speed was on point, my timing was there, so I'm glad he come for it. And yeah, definitely my best performance, and I'm just looking to build on it now.
And no, we're going to see you next December 9, your first 6 round, and Nabil Ahmed in the opposite corner, isn't it?
Yeah, Nabil Ahmed. Just had a quick watch of him as well, and hopefully I can do the same and look good in this first 6 rounder of mine. So if I can look good, and hopefully, I'm hitting harder, I'm really fast, they won't see the punches coming, and hopefully we can get our first stoppage as well.
That moving up to 6 rounds in your 5th fight, Samir, that's important for flyweights, isn't it? Because your chances and your opportunities come earlier in other divisions, don't they? So you've got to start building up to a championship distance really as quick as you can.
Exactly that, John. Exactly that. Look, we're not in the game to... Even though being a British champion is a phenomenal achievement, I'd love to win that belt myself, but I'm not in this game just to be a British champion. I want to be a world champion. And like you said, the flyweights get moved fast, and Steve Woods is doing exactly that.
Right. All right. Then we'll fire on with a pod. We'll talk more about flyweights later on. You know how it works. John gets angry after 3 minutes. We have to edit it out some weeks. Lee Hogan, our editor, he has to edit it out because John gets pretty angry if you go on after 3 minutes. He looks mild-mannered, but there's a bad dude in there. And, you see a picture on Instagram on his big red motorbike, you see what a madman he can be. Is it true? Madman on the roads.
Hey.
Right, all right, round 1, and you're going to start us off this week, John. What's your first topic? Is that the Jennings Gym, I believe?
Yeah, Michael Jennings Gym. I think they deserve a big shout out. They're probably one of the more under the radar gyms. Well, they have been one of the more under the radar gyms probably until the last 6 months. But what a run of professional form run. We had Mark Jeffers beating Zach Shelley. We had Jack Cullen knocking out Mark Efferon. And then at weekend, Dan Catlin knocking out Jack Kilgannon. That's not even mentioning the amateur achievements they have. It's a thriving amateur gym as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mikey's one of the people you listen to, isn't he? If Mike says there's going to be a result, your ears prick up. But you take notice of it because he doesn't talk crap, Mike. And Dave's just the same. Very no-nonsense. Go about the work quietly with no fanfare, no fuss. But the results are proving just how good trainers and just what a good gym that is. It seems to have a stranglehold on middleweight and super middleweight at the minute. But I'm looking forward to seeing who else comes out of that gym.
Yeah, and not just the amateurs, all 3 of them, Jeffers, Cullen and Catlin, who we saw at the weekend, there was all underdogs, you could argue, as well, which makes those achievements even more phenomenal. Are you familiar with them, Samir?
Yeah, I'm really familiar with obviously Jack Cullen being with both from Bolton, and you know what? The whole town was buzzing for him. Everyone got right behind him. Look, we know about who did he box again? Mark Heffron. We know about Mark Heffron, really strong lad. He's trained by Joe Gallagher, who's a well-respected coach himself, who would have set up a really, really good game plan, and they would have went into the fight really confident, but Jack Cullen pulled it off, didn't he? What a shot, what a left hook, and we're all just really buzzing for him. He brought that British title back to Bolton, didn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did.
Do you think a lot of that's down to the Jennings camp, what they've done with him, especially after his European title loss, when it all went wrong that night for everyone in that camp? It would have been.
Yeah, you know what? Obviously, credit where it's due. Big shout out to Jennings Gym. You know, they've done clearly they've done a phenomenal job with him as well. And you know what? Just you gotta take your hat off to people like that and give credit where it's due. It's not only Jack Cullen, like you said, it was the other lads from the gym as well. They're really buzzing at the moment, so we should give them their flowers as well.
Yeah, look, go back just a few years as well. Scott Fitzgerald upsetting Fowler. Fitzgerald was a great fighter who, sadly, it's all gone, hasn't it? But they've got a record for producing underdogs. And also, I am assuming the teaching's top class because they're turning out heavy punchers as well, aren't they? The right hand that Dan Catlin threw against Kilgannon, it was out of a textbook, wasn't it? It couldn't have been any more perfect.
Yeah, and
that left hook he timed Heffron with. They're getting everything perfect at the moment.
Yeah, he just went in. He was almost as if he knew that he wouldn't move away from the right hand either. He had to move to the right, but just walking into it. But no, fantastic achievement by that gym, and it's nice that you've brought them up, John, to give them some kudos. And hats off to you, John Evans, for bringing them up and bringing them to people's attention.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? Big respect to John as well. You know what? You've got to give people credit. Boxing is not an easy sport, not just for the boxers, but for the coaches and everyone behind it as well. So big up bringing that up, John, and well done to them as well.
Round two, we're going to big up to you now, Samir. You're going to talk about Sonny Edwards. I don't know whether Sonny's a bit of a Marmite fighter to a lot of people. I like him. I know John likes him. You know, do you like him as a person, a fighter, or are you one of these guys who want to conquer him?
No. Look, obviously, I've got ambitions to be a world champion, but I admire Sonny Edwards. I'd go as far to say I look up to him and the way he boxes. Look, he hits and he doesn't get hit. That's the aim of boxing. That's the name of boxing. And he does it to a T. He does it in his own way. It's different to Mayweather, where Mayweather was in that finish shell style and make you miss in that way. Sonny Edwards, he'd move around, a lot of good footwork, a lot of hand defenses, a lot of head movement himself. I just think he's a master boxer, and I really like his style.
Yeah, this fight with Bam Bam's going to be something else, isn't it? This is a real top level fight. The winner goes on the pound for pound lists, and they're the best fighter in one of the classic divisions. You know, it's style versus style. You've got mover against one of the best guys in the world at cutting the ring down. It's a true 50-50. I can't wait for it. It's one of the fights I'm looking forward to most this year. What do you reckon about that one, Sammy?
Honestly, you said it exactly how I feel. I can't wait for that. I'm a big fan of Jesse Rodriguez as well. Do you know what? His brother's a really good fighter as well. He's a southpaw. He looks up to Lomachenko, and if you watch him fight, he boxes like Lomachenko. The angles he creates, he punches really hard. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's boxer versus puncher because even though Sonny doesn't hit as hard as Jesse Rodriguez, I think that kind of like discredits Jesse's boxing ability. It's not boxer versus puncher. It's boxer versus box puncher, in my opinion. And you know what? I'm just looking forward to that fight. I'm sat on the fence. Some days you'll ask me, who do you think's gonna win? I said, I don't know. You know what? I think Jesse Rodriguez. But other days I say, nah. You know, Sonny's footwork, Sonny's ability and his agility, he'll see his way through it, and he'll win the fight. But honestly, I don't have a clue. I don't know who's going to win that fight. That's what makes it a great fight. I think that's why everyone's looking forward to it.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who wins and loses either, does it? You know, it's fingers crossed. In an ideal world, it's a tremendous fight, and we get one of those old classic flyweight trilogies that we got with a Chocolatito and Estrada and stuff, because Sonny and Bam are both good enough to pull something like that off.
Yeah, you know what?
Definitely.
Sorry, go on, Samir. You're the flyweight. You talk, mate. People want to hear you more than me.
John just touched on it. It doesn't matter who wins and loses. I'm glad you said that as well, John, because what it's about is really about the best fighting the best, and we don't see that enough in boxing. So credit to both them fighters as well that they're getting it on. Hopefully they get it on 2-3 times and they mix it up with the likes of Estrada and Chocolatito and all the other great flyweights. I hope the best fight the best. That's all it's about. We need to see that more in boxing.
We on time there, John. Round 3 now. My first topic is about the pressure that I've got to get Samir and John on this, obviously. Promoters, and they hype kids as the next great thing. Now, I've read an interview with Frank Warren today that made me bring this up this morning. I think it was on Boxing Social, where Frank was saying, he won't rush Moses Itama, but this man is going to be the future of the heavyweight division. And we're in this world now where, and it's quite sad, this social media world where if a promoter says that, there's people almost wanting that person to fall because the promoter they might not like has made that comment. And I think it's just that the era we're in now. And I wonder if promoters should step back from saying this stuff. I know hype's needed in boxing, but I wonder if it does them any favours, or do you think, what do you think of the hype game, Samir, where when a promoter says you're the next big thing? I mean, if Steve Wood, he's not that sort of guy, but went and said, I've got Samir Aftab in 2 years' time, he's going to end Sonny Edwards' reign. How would you feel that pressure? Because there'll be people wanting you beat because the promoter said that. In my opinion.
First of all, I'd agree with him. and you touched on it as well, Steve. It's a tricky question because we are in it's a social media era. That's the era we're in, where everyone's hyping on social media anyway. Anything you put, any knockout, will go viral, and it's just you put pressure on yourself naturally anyway through social media. But going to the question, it is too much pressure. Yeah, I do believe it is. I do believe it is too much pressure, but it kind of comes with it with the era that we're in, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
John.
I agree. And it doesn't do any help either, does it? If say you've been hyped up, and then you go into an 8-rounder against a Georgian guy who doesn't want to be stopped, and you don't look $1 million, suddenly you're overhyped and you're crap.
Yeah, that's right.
If your promoter had never said it in the first place, it would have just been another 8-round fight, another win on the record, and on to the next one. But instead, people go over it with a fine-tooth comb, don't they, looking for faults. And suddenly, if you get boosted up to that point, it puts expectations on what you should do to all these guys. And if you don't live up to the expectations that someone who's never had a fight in my life looks on BoxRec and says, oh, you should stop this guy in 3 rounds, you're a bum. Yeah. I think by boosting them up and saying we're going to be a world beat, it actually has an opposite effect and gets them turned into bums if you don't do what people expect.
Yeah, I think a perfect example of that, is Dennis McCann against Beluta.
Yeah.
He looked phenomenal for I don't know how many fights he's had, 10. And you know what? He looked amazing, putting people out when he was early days, and he had a subpar performance, and everyone's saying, "Oh, he's a hype job. He's not going to do this. He's not going to do that." Just because of one bad performance, and suddenly all the other good performances goes out the window. And obviously, I don't. It's not fair at all, really, is it? So then the question is, the answer to the question is, yeah, it's not fair, is it? The pressure on the up and coming prospects. We want to see. We should be encouraging people coming through like Dennis. He's only young. We should be encouraging him and not trying to drag him down.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Round 4 and your final topic here, Samira. You want to talk about drug testing and what Matchroom are doing with his VADA style testing, I believe.
Yeah, you know what? I just wanted to give the props like John did with the Jennings Gym. I think it's amazing what Matchroom are doing. They're testing not even just at top level, they're testing every single one of their shows. So hats off to Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing for doing. Is it VADA testing that
they've got their own agency, and that style of same as VADA. It's very similar to what VADA test, isn't it, John?
Oh, is that how you're doing it?
Yeah, drug-free sport they use.
Drug-free sport they use.
So how are they going to test the fighters now? Like, for example, say someone who's just signed up to Matchroom now, how would that how would they get tested? Is it
Well, just in competition, when they're in competition, I'm guessing it's going to be, I think. Is that right? John, have you been reading? That's what I've been reading up on.
I think so. I struggle with all these drug testing agencies. I know you should probably be more up on it than we are, but it's just mind-numbing, isn't it? There's so many different agencies, so many different procedures, so many different sets of rules and regulations. Who recognises who? It's all a complete mess.
Yeah.
For one thing, you will say, like, agree with Samir for catching people. Like, we had Kamil Sokolovsky, the heavyweight, got caught today and's been banned for 3 years. So tests are being flagged up more and more.
But there was an interesting case. I'm not going to give the name here. Samir might correct me on this. He might have been tested. Have you ever been tested, Samir, by VADA?
I haven't, no.
Right. I'm told VADA do absolutely no testing with 4 and 6 round fighters. About 3 months ago, drug tester walked into an away dressing room, went to one fighter, and he failed a drug test. It hasn't come out yet, his name, so I'm not going to start saying it on here. So there you go. So someone was obviously been tipped off what he was up to. They ignored every fight. I know one person was in that dressing room who told me exactly what happened. So I just think it's right. I think it's absolutely rife in the sport still. And I just think that the money's got to be found to have people. I mean, what Matchroom are doing, as you say, fair play that people are being caught. But I think there's got to be more testing at all levels of boxing, not just the big money fights where there's in competition testing. But that's me.
Yeah. I just think it's disgusting, really, because everyone is aware of the dangers of boxing and what it can cause. And if people are going out of the way just so they can get an edge on someone like that, like not thinking about the consequences, and I think it's disgusting. And people who get caught should have a more severe consequence, if you ask me. There's no place for it in boxing. You're not doing a 100-meter sprint or throwing a shot put. You're punching people in the face. It's as dangerous as it is now and as it is already. And people who want to take drugs, it's a joke, really.
Yeah, you know what? You shouldn't give props to him, but at least Kamil Sosonowski admitted he was at it. No one else is. He's the first one to say, "Yeah, hands up, you done me. I'm retiring. I'll give up." Yeah. The first one ever. You should give him his license back for admitting it.
They might do the word.
Right, John, round 5, Wardley v Adeleye, and the mess it's become.
Yeah, maybe mess is the wrong word, because them two lads, it's been built up and they're both going to get a lot of attention. I assume a few more quid. But, God, it's dragged on, hasn't it? If this was a mandated fight, I believe the negotiations were torture. Then we had the farce at the Fury and Ngannou press conference with one of Adelay's, what do we call them? Entourage. Putting that left hook on Wardley. Wardley gets a cut eye and a cut chin. And will he be able to spar? Will the fight get delayed? Now the British title's off the line because they're fighting in Saudi Arabia. So if Adeleye wins, does Wardley keep the belt? Is he still the champion even though he's been done off Adeleye? Maybe mess is a bit harsh because every little incident has just ramped up the interest in it, hasn't it? And that's what I assume it's all been intended to do. But I just wish it for not novice heavyweights, but it's a British heavyweight title fight. I remember back in the day we had Pele Reid against Julius Francis. That was a proper British title fight. The two fellas signed a contract, got in the ring and had a fight, and that was it. And I just wish, until we get to world level, it was just toned down a little bit. Yeah. Prove yourself at British level, and then you deserve the hype and the attention.
You know what does it with this fight? What's the biggest shame with this fight? Look, I understand why Fury and Ngannou are boxing in Saudi Arabia, because that's where the money's in. And absolutely, as we say on there, good luck to them for all the money they're making. It's an hard enough sport. I'm sure if there was an 8-stone Ngannou, it was big, and Samir was offered the fight in Saudi, he'd be there tomorrow to fight him. But the worst thing with this fight is that it's going to go under the radar in Saudi Arabia because it's all about the Fury fight. With the build-up and the nastiness has been, and the left hook being delivered on Wardley last week, imagine that fight if it had been in London now at Wembley. it was headlining at Wembley, it would have captured people because of what had happened in the build-up. The build-up, the needle would have continued all week, and it would have done great viewing figures. Instead, it's going to be a loss on a pay-per-view that a lot of boxing fans who aren't going to buy. It's going to be more your general public. It'll do very well, that fight, but it's general public and not hardcore boxing fans who won't really be watching that fight unless they got a dodgy box. What do you think of Wardley Adeleye, Samir? And do not say you've got a dodgy box, because Sky TV will be around your house and they'll have you put in prison by December 9.
No comment. That's how we go. No comment.
So tell us about, how do you see the fight? Do you follow the heavyweights that much, these guys?
Yeah, of course. I watch everything boxing. Me, I love it. The fight, obviously, it's a good fight, and like you said, they're kind of robbing the British public, aren't they, from watching it. Like it will the beef now, so-called beef, the mess, whatever you want to call it, it's hyped the fight up even more, and it's gonna get lost in Saudi Arabia, kind of thing. The actual fight, Wardley, I don't know. It's another 50-50 if you ask me. Wardley, I believe, as he come from a lot of white collar fights. He's had no fights, and his white collar. I don't know too much about Adeleye. I don't know how his amateur career was, but he's a power puncher himself. And in the heavyweight division, it only takes one, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm not even going to sit on the fence here, and I might upset John. I'm all over Wardley for this fight. I fancy him massively. I remember Phil.
I don't know.
Are you on the fence as well, John, with Samir?
Yeah, I think Adeley's improved, and he's a clever guy, Adeleye, when you speak to him. He's smart. I'm undecided on it. I just wonder if Adeleye might be a little bit hyped up by it. And Wardley's been on big stages, hasn't he? And maybe that might come into it. But raw power,
that's what I'm edging towards as well. I think the experience on the big stages, I'm leaning towards Wardley. If you had a gun to my head and you said you have to pick a winner, I'd edge towards Wardley.
Yeah, it's interesting that you two are quite close. But what I was going, Phil Williams, I always ask journeyman about fighters. I think I said to you earlier, and Steve Jackson said to me on Saturday night that Samir was a good kid. And I always ask journeyman. And I was speaking to Phil Williams the other week. He's had 40 fights. And I said, who's the best you fought? And he said, ain't just the best I fought. The only man that truly hurt me was Fabio Wardley.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, when them sort of guys say it, a journeyman says it like that, who's been in with everybody, you tend to listen. You know. Anyway, final round, we're staying with the heavyweights, and the juggernaut, Joyce against Zang in their rematch this weekend. I don't know, you guys might I don't know why they've gone down this route. I'm sure that it's not something Frank Warren would have been pushing for, but it seems that Team Joyce have gone down this way to have this rematch. And I just don't make any case for him at all winning this fight at the rematch. And with his age, a second heavy defeat for Zang, and I really think it is the last road trip for the juggernaut, because he will be so far down the pecking order, he wouldn't even be seen as a serious challenger if he was offered a voluntary defence. I just think they shouldn't have gone down this road, and I don't see how it's going to end any differently for Joe Joyce this time. You look like you might disagree there, John.
No, I'm just trying to think my way through it. I don't think it's as far gone a conclusion as that.
Really?
You've got to pick Zang because of the way the first fight went. But my memories of that fight I've not watched it back, but Joyce was starting to get motoring a little bit. Looked like he'd solved it a little bit. And Zang's an old man as well. And maybe he was feeling the pace. And Joyce got nothing right. He couldn't do anything, could he? He was completely lost. Maybe it may just take a couple of small adjustments for Joyce to make a big difference in the fight. I don't think it'll be as one-sided. You've got to put Zang as favourite, but I don't think it'll be quite the beating he was if he does win. It wouldn't surprise me if Joyce made a couple of changes and outlasted him. But you've got to back Zang, but I don't think it'll be as clear-cut as the first one.
How do you see it, Samir?
You know what? I just see another Zang win. I think Joe Joyce relied a lot on his punch resistance, and it looked like he just got old overnight, really, and he was just unable to take a punch. And you do tend to see that in fighters. You get a little bit older, you get towards the back end of the career, and with someone like Joyce who relies on it so much, his punch resistance, like he takes the punches, he walks forward, he takes the punches, he's walking forward until his opponents like fatigued and almost mentally fatigued, and then he starts pulling it on them and usually takes them out. But I think, like I said, he looked old. It looked like he's gone old overnight. And can he take a punch anymore? I doubt it. I think Zhang again. I think he'll stop him.
Yeah, it's a big.
Yeah, you can't argue with it at all. But they've got no southpaw preparation first time, did they? So
no.
Assuming he's done it, that's all he's done. Well, I hope to God that's all he's done. So there's got to be natural improvements just from that. I'm not sure. Everyone was saying he was too light, wasn't he? I'm not sure exactly how much difference that'll make. But if he's just been working southpaw, you're going to see an improvement.
Yeah, you're right about that. You're right about that, John. But they're factors on the little factors. What we saw was different. They're all what ifs, really, innit? But I think even you'll agree that kind of Joyce, he didn't look himself. Yeah. Maybe he's got a bit older, and Zhang probably the favourite in that one.
That's right.
And not surprised he's got old, is it? God,
yeah, it's not. I was just going to say that amateur career was it. It was just fighting WSB fight after WSB fight. It was just years at the highest level. Quite incredible. Yeah. And you know what? Although I don't think he'll win, I'd love him to win. And you cannot, if you know Joe at all, you cannot dislike him one iota. Just a brilliant athlete. Everything he's ever done in sports, swimming, athletics, rugby, he's excelled at. He must be one of those guys who just can take up a sport and pick it up in 5 minutes. Brilliant.
Well, I hope it's a good fight because I'm going down myself. I'm going to go down and watch that. So get Steve Woods ticket to a ringside one. Tell him to ring Eddie and sort it out.
Steve will sort you out, mate. So is there anyone else you're going down for it on that bill? Or is it just to go and see the heavyweights?
Yeah. I thought, you know what? I trained a lot for my last fight, so I'm just going to enjoy myself. I was more just to chill out a little bit and watch the heavyweights. Yeah, that's all.
Well, should we give VIP fighter a shout out with Kane Gardner fighting Pierce
Of course. Yeah, trains down the road for me. When I do my running round Droylsden, I often see Kane. He never stops, just says hello, Steve, and runs past me. Yeah. Kane Gardner against Pierce O'Leary on that fight. Is it a WBC international, I think, John, isn't it?
Yeah, some international title. It's a big chance for Kane, isn't it? Because Pierce is hot at the minute. Big chance
for Kane, and Pierce is a very good fighter. I'll tell you what, if Kane comes through that, he is for real. So, yeah, good luck to Kane Gardner. And also, let's not forget there's a VIP show in Liverpool Saturday. Brandon Dale's on it, and the guy who stepped up to the plate to take him on doesn't turn down anybody. He's a man who's just shared the ring with you. It's Steve Jackson going 6 rounds with him.
Right, I know that. I think Brandon Dale, I think he's a really good fighter, so best of luck.
Let's hope fingers crossed he actually gets in the ring.
Yeah. He's there. If this one fell apart for him after the last one, I don't know what. And there could be, we'll know in the next day or so, something quite big for him in December. So we'll see. And also, Paddy Lacey on that. He fights only a 4-rounder because he's in a bigger fight next month for a Central area. But he's fighting a Polish guy called Adam Cieslak, who's a bit of a slow starter. But once he gets in his stride, it's a handful. So that could be a good fight. But anyway, Samir, thanks for coming on, albeit at short notice and a week earlier than we planned. It was lovely to have you on, and now we've had you on once. You get brought back twice and 3 times, and you'll be sick of the sight of us anyway.
No, never. Thanks for having me on. Look, It's good for myself, getting myself out there. Just make sure the title Steve Woods is favourite.
Yeah, all right. Steve Woods' favourite fighter has been our guest tonight, Samir Aftab. So one of Steve Woods' other favourites, John Evans, has also been with us. You know me, I don't know where I am with Steve. Depends what work I've done for him making matches and whether I've got anyone beaten. But there you go. Well, I haven't got his favourite fighter beaten yet, and I never will do if I have my way.
John's his second favourite.
Fellas, thanks very much for joining us, and thanks very much everybody for watching or listening. Thank you.
For all boxing,
info, news and latest interviews, amateur and pro, across the north, click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also, Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.